Hey you guys, it's me, Sydney, and today I'm here to talk about some of the most influential books in my life. Some of them have changed my life in a more dramatic way, and some of them have just been books that when I think back to my childhood, these books are the ones that stand out to me the most. I'm going to go in chronological order of when I read these books, or when I had these books read to me up until the most recent, including a book I haven't even read yet. So let's just get into it. Starting with the book that kicked the whole reading thing off. The book that both of my parents have read to me as a very young child. My mom will bring this up every now and then, like, oh, you used to love that book so much. When we went to Disney World, I was obsessed with this particular character because of this book, Goofy on the Hillside. And this book is the cutest little story. It's about Goofy in his little farm village. He's going throughout the village and he's basically just trying to help his neighbors. You know, he's a very kind soul, Goofy, who he is, but he's also incredibly clumsy. So while helping out all his neighbors, he's actually making things worse for them. But you know, he's got a good heart, he means well. And in the end, it's still a really nice day and it's a really nice story. I should give this a reread. It'll probably take me like 5 minutes because, like, you know, look at the words. Very small. Not a lot of words on these pages. But still, very influential book. You might notice I changed the angle. I realized I wasn't holding the book quite in frame. The next couple of books were sort of not your typical book. They're still books, of course, but they're not like fiction, prose, or anything like that. At least not in the typical sense. They're encyclopedias or compendiums of different stories and poems and everything like that. And these books, they introduced me to literature as a concept and writing as a concept. My parents actually bought a whole encyclopedia set, like not just the A to Z things, but like also like science books and like different types of books, like how the world works. You know, there's like, we still have these books on our bookshelves downstairs. I'm not getting rid of them even though they're from 2002. They're still relevant in my book. You see what I did there? These are the two books that I always kept going back to. Poems and Rhymes and Once Upon a Time. These are from World Book. That's the encyclopedia company. But I always came back to these books because these books include stories in them. So, for example, this one is Old Mother Hubbard. You know, that whole rhyme. And Humpty Dumpty and Old King Cole and the Queen of Hearts. And it's got like all those classic fairy tale short stories. And this one's got Why Bear Has a Stumpy Tail, Cinderella, Hans Christian Andersen, a storyteller, just talking about him. Never getting rid of them. I don't care what you tell me. The next book on this list was more of a, well, let me just show you. That book is The Care and Keeping of You, and this was one of the American Girl library books. And this book just kind of showed, like, you know, as a little girl growing up, you know, you go through things. And this book just kind of showed me what to expect about like growing up, going through puberty and all that kinds of things. And every time, you know, I needed to look in here, the answer was right here. We'll move on. Anyway, the next few books are books that were significant to me during late elementary school into middle school. Well, first off, the A to Z Mystery Series by Ron Roy. And I don't own these books because I always read them from my school library, but I remember being obsessed with those books, you know. R is for Runaway Racehorse, Q is for Quicksand something, I don't know. We also have Lacey Yee books, So Totally Emily Evers, and then there's Stanford Wong Flunks Big Time and Millicent Men Girl Genius. We also have some Judy Blume books, so we've got Blubber, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, Iggy's House, and starring Sally J. Freeman as herself. I don't actually remember the plots of these books. All I really remember is just how much I enjoyed reading them. These are the elementary and middle school book years. And then we've got a doozy, which I still stand by. I don't care what y'all say. But you know, this book is a love it or hate it kind of book. I understand that it has its problems, but the reason I love it is because it was such a significant book in my life. It introduced me to creative writing. Everybody was obsessed with this series. And I read this series and I was just like, I can write too. So I did, and I'm still writing to this day 8 years later. Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I don't think I need to say a whole lot more about this. Now we're getting into some more modern series, okay? A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Also, for the same reason that this book affected me, this movie affected me, and that's Captain America Winter Soldier. And the reason that these two stand out in my mind and have changed kind of my way of thinking is that there's so many scenes that happen in such a short amount of time, and it's just like, the movie's still not over, but it's like it's still so exciting, you know? So I call it the plot of 1,000 happenings, just because there's, you know, within one overarching plot, there's like 1,000 scenes. At least it feels like it. And for some reason, I really enjoy that, because most of the scenes tend to be pretty short, so it's fast paced and it's always moving and they're doing everything in this one plot. It's just amazing to me, like some serious storytelling, and I feel like it can be very hard to do this without it feeling like it's long-winded or doing too much. But I really enjoyed the way Sarah J. Maas and, you know, whoever was in charge of the Winter Soldier movie, I really enjoyed the way that they put those stories together. And so next we have a middle grade book that I read about 1.5 to 2 years ago, and that is The Glass Sentence by S.E. Grove. And this book is one of my favorite books I've ever read because the world building is insane. This book also deals with cartography, which is like the study of maps. Basically, this world here, back in 1889 or 99 or something around there was this event called the Great Disruption. And what happened after that is no longer was the entire world experiencing the same year, 1899 or whatever it was. Now, every country, every continent, every area of the world is experiencing a different time period. So like, you know, one part of the world is experiencing like way in the future, another part of the world is experiencing Egyptian times, like that time, you know. Then we've got like over in Boston where Sophia lives, it's still the same year, like 1899, but then you've got over in Europe, it's the Dark Ages, and like every place is in a different time period and they're traveling to these different places. And it's just, I love this. Please pick this book up. Pick it up. Pick it up. The Glass Sentence by S.E. Grove. Do it. So then we've also got Bellwether Rhapsody by Kate Raculia. After I got into this thing where I was only reading YA books, I stumbled across this book in a bookstore, and it's basically sort of a mystery light thriller, and it just introduced me to a new genre of mystery. So ever since I read this book, like back in, gosh, what was it, February of this year, I've had my eye out for mystery. I've been watching the Hallmark Movies and Mystery Channel. I just finished reading Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, and I plan to read some other books of hers, and I have a few other mystery books that I'd like to get to as well. Now we've got a couple of books that I haven't completely read, but I've read like a little bit of each of these books. I just haven't finished either of them yet. And the first one is Edgar Allan Poe's. This is just basically a compendium of everything he's ever published, short stories and poems. I love Edgar Allan Poe. I consider him one of my favorite writers. He's so dark and creepy. I need to read more. I need to read more, especially if I'm going to call him one of my favorite writers. I need to know, like, read more. And last but not least, we have Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. I read the first 3 chapters in the bookstore, and right away I was engrossed. I was in this story, and this is a graphic memoir, so it's a true story, or it's true stories because it's several stories in here. Just those 3 chapters that I've read so far, it's kind of changed my perspective on, first of all, like nonfiction stories, because I was always kind of like, the whole reason I read books is to get away from the real world, so I don't want to read about the real world. But I'm getting away from that perspective, and I'm wanting to get more into nonfiction books, and this is kind of my start. It also tackles serious culture issues that takes place during the author's childhood, growing up when the Islamic Revolution was going on, making me pay more attention to cultural events and, you know, things going on in the world. And I'm not the type of person who likes to watch the news, but, you know, I kind of always feel a bit better after watching it, because then I know a little bit more about what's going on, even though it's really sad, a lot of the things that are going on in this world. But, you know, it's important to pay attention and to kind of know what's going on and to be woke, as the kids say. I just want my eyes to be a little bit more open. I think this book is helping me get there. So there you have it, the books that have changed my life in some way. Like I said, some of them were big changes, such as getting me into reading or writing, or opening my eyes to new cultures and perspectives, where some of them were smaller changes, like, oh hey, mystery is a genre, you should check more of us out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Down in the comments, I want to know a couple of your most influential books. Give this video a like and hit subscribe for more videos to come, and I'll see you next time. Bye!